Welcome back to U.S. Farm Report this weekend. All right, we started to talk about demand, but Mike, some export sales this week reported from China when it comes to soybeans, when it comes to wheat, and that seemed to get the market excited.
Absolutely. Just building on the idea that beans might get a little bit short, not knowing what South America will bring to the table. We've seen a flurry of some export sales, and certainly good news coming in, at the higher end of expectations, and showing us that even with beans back towards some of the highest prices we've seen on new crop, that we still aren't maybe too tall to warrant some buying behavior from China.
Well, Jim, one thing that our Ag Economist Monthly Monitor that we talked about in the Farm Journal report, one thing that it did talk about is how resilient the ag economy has been and the general economy, even when you look at higher interest rates and inflation and everything. But do you think we are at a tipping point with that? Are there some warning signs, Jim?
I believe there are. I think one of the biggest things we need to look at, Tyne, is the debt repayment. That was frozen at the beginning of the pandemic. There's a lot of back and forth. Would it be extended or not? It is not. It's kicking back in here in September. And the reality is your average student loan repayment's $400. If you got a family of two people that actually went to college, they may have student debt payments that are going to kick back in $800 plus. And the reality is they've now got to figure out where are they going to get that $800 from? Is it going to come out of their grocery bill, maybe not buying as much beef or something, or maybe not even just going out to eat, or just slowing down the economy as a whole? So these are some cracks in the economy that I'm seeing.
Yeah, and Mike, when you look at trying to rebuild this cattle herd, not only are we looking at drought and the impacts and the expectations for that, but we're looking at higher interest rates. And so as we see these producers try to rebuild, how big of a headwind will interest rates be this go round?
Oh, it'll be massive, and it kind of has the double-edged sword analogy attached to it. The interest rates pile on to the consumer as well, but if I'm carrying very high-priced cattle that are on leveraged dollars, that gets really difficult to maintain, and so capacities could be squeezed on that front. But let's face it, just the physiology of the animal is such that it's going to be difficult to fully rebuild this very quickly. And so, in our work on the dairy side of things, we see a lot of growth on that front to help bring some more capacity back into this space. But it's going to be difficult to rebuild this herd very quickly, and interest rates is certainly one of those headwinds.
Jim, what about the U.S. dollar? I mean, we know that has just such an impact on exports. What direction could we see the U.S. dollar take?
Right now, the trend's been to the upside for the most part, Tyne, and I don't know if it's going to change anytime soon. And like I said, the higher that dollar goes, it is just going to make us that much less uncompetitive in the world market. And that's not what we want to see, but that seems to be the trend, at least at the moment.
Yeah, Mike, on the dairy front, the ag economists that we surveyed, they expect milk prices to hover around that $20 mark for the all milk price. Do you agree with that? And if we do see those types of prices, is that even break even for dairy farmers?
That'll be above break even. Feed costs have come down far enough where that will put producers in black ink. Bottom line, though, it'll be difficult to hover around $20 because this isn't just a domestic discussion. This is equally a global discussion, and 18% of our milk leaves this country in one way, shape, or form. As we look at China being one of our biggest buyers, their economic headwinds are certainly going to push back. And if we cut this herd by 1%, 1.5%, it'll be a small move relative to what we could see on the demand front, and that's where things can get a little bit murky in this discussion, and what will weigh heavily against trying to maintain $20 milk. So while we have a chance to get there, this likely isn't a price that's going to stick around forever either.
Jim, Mike mentioned China. And when you look at China and the outlook there and just the warning signs when it comes to China's economy, what commodity are you worried most about?
Right now, I would say, it's going to be the beans. They are obviously the big importer of beans in the world. So I think that's a problem. But it's also the protein. The reality is China's economy is slowing down. Their people are getting older. And, to me, it looks like China's going to struggle a little bit. And that definitely will be a negative headwind for all commodities.
Yeah, Jim McCormick, Mike North, thank you so much for joining us this weekend. We need to take a quick break, and then we'll have much more when we come back.